What's up, everybody? This is Tyler with Mom's Basement MMA. I have a really special guest with us today, Ashton No Chance Caniglia. He is from Omaha, Nebraska, and he just got done whipping some guy's ass not that long ago, and I'm really excited that he's on the show. Ashton, welcome, man. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
I am doing great now that I'm back home. So, there's a break in the show. I talked to Anthony Smith like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so we're keeping this show in Nebraska, which is kind of cool. With you on the show now, you're following up Anthony Smith, by the way. He's a super cool guy. But I'm talking about all that. The reason why I took a break was because I went to go visit my mom. My mom lives in Colorado, and I live in Washington D.C. So I had to jump on a plane and hang out with her for a little bit, and then go to a wedding for my family. And when's the last time that you flew?
Last time I flew was to Florida last year in June.
Okay, so you've been like flying during the virus and stuff. Okay,
Yep.
all right. So, okay, I got this story. So I flew out of Dulles, which I don't know if you've ever been through there, but like it's like a pretty large airport, right? Like kind of like Denver. I'm sure you've been in and out of Denver. Like it's not as big as Denver, but it's pretty big. And
Alright.
there was this dude. I'm going through the security checkpoint, and there is this guy. Like, you ever like notice a guy and like you can't stop staring at him because he looks just so fucking ridiculous, and like you want to laugh? Okay, well this was this guy, dude. He had a cowboy hat on, just like a regular like white tee, and shorts, like gym shorts, and sandals. And like I've never seen anyone wear a cowboy hat in like with shorts before. And he had like this fanny pack thing going around, like this bright green fanny pack. And like the first thing I'm thinking of is like, this guy is either the biggest gangster of all time that does not give two fucks what people think, or this guy's psychotic, right? And I wasn't sure which one, but I'm just looking at this guy. I'm like, man, I hope when I'm 45 years old, I have the balls to like get on a plane like this guy. And we're getting ready to go through the security checkpoint, and they're asking him the standard questions like, have you been in control of your bags the entire time? You don't have any water or any other dumb shit with you, right? And this guy just looks
Alright.
lost, man. Like he had no idea what was going on. And I thought it was kind of funny for a little bit, but then I'm just kind of like, you're gonna like make me miss my plane, man. Like we've only been doing this for like 20 years. Like this isn't new to anybody. People always wonder like why people are so irritated and pissed off, particularly the airport workers. And I'm like, well, because they're dealing with you dumb shits every day. That's why. That's why they're so pissed off. I would be too. Anyway, that's my rant, man. I had to get that off my chest. It was an observation. I got more. But I'll save that one for the next guest. The return leg of my observation and rant will be on the next poor bastard that's on my show. I do I have that lined up? I do. Yeah, I don't think I can say anything yet. Um, but he'll get the brunt of that one. And so now that I got my rant about Rona and flying out of the way, tell me a little bit about you. So, like, I know you're a pretty big deal in Omaha, in that area. Like, you told me, like, you were kind of like upset that you weren't like the main event for DCS 71. Because you're like, dude, I like sellout shows. So, like, people in your area obviously are really familiar with who you are and like what you've done, but for those of us that are like on the East Coast, West Coast, or like in England or something like that, like what is it that you want people to know about you? Like what kind of fighter are you, and what kind of got you into mixed martial arts?
Um, well, I started about when I was 20 years old. So, um, man, I just wanted to, I missed wrestling. I grew up wrestling. Uh, and I grew up fighting in high school, street fights. Um, so my buddy Seth Bass, and he introduced me to OFC. It's called Omaha Fight Club, ran by Tim Baser here in Omaha. I started there, and it was just because I wanted to fight. I mean, I wasn't taking it serious. Um, then I got to, I moved to multiple gyms to, you know, So I went to Skywalker with Danny Molina. Then then I kind of just fell off. And, I didn't fight for a while. Um, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. So I was in a bad relationship with an ex. So if that involves, she didn't want me to, be serious with the sport. So I didn't take it serious. That's why I didn't go pro for a while. So finally, when I left her and I went through bumps and in the roads, being drinking and, you know,
Being a dummy.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
That's part of growing up, man.
And I finally went pro like 3 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I'm not sure.
2019 is when you
Yeah,
turned pro.
2019,
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay, 2019, I went pro. That's when I came back from, see, I disappeared for a while, for a couple years. Went AME. Uh, I was training with Monstar Kickboxing and Fitness, ran by Virgil Knight. Then I found Mid America, started training with Aaron Cerrone, and my corners. They're actually out in Iowa right now, Des Moines, Iowa, for Muay Thai Nationals right now. So I pretty much found Mid America, and I turned my wrestling and gained more on Muay Thai stand up to turn me into a actual all around fighter.
I was meaning to ask you that. So, like, looking at your fights, is it fair for me to say, if I had to describe to somebody who's never seen you fight before, like, this is what I see? Like, I wouldn't have known you were, like, predominantly a wrestler. Like, you look like you've been, like, kickboxing, like, your entire life. Um, is it fair for me to say that you like to kind of be a bully? You like to clinch people up, get them against the cage, and start rocking them as hard as you can. And when they get tired or they get hurt, that's when you go for a sub and you try to end it. Like, you end fights, man. Like, you're not a point fighter. You're not a point fighter. Like, you're in there to like end fights. Is that more or less accurate?
Um, well, I grew up wrestling, and my favorite thing is to get you against the cage, and I won't let you go off the cage. I always relied on my wrestling um, till I transferred over to Mid America Mixed Martial Arts Academy. I was never comfortable, uh, standing up. I would clench and go there, but going toe to toe boxing, I could never do till I went to Mid America.
Well, I mean, and that's just because like that was like the one common denominator I noticed at every single one of your fights. I'm like, yep, he's gonna put this guy in the cage. Yep, he's gonna piece this guy up against the cage, and he like you trap them there. And like once you're on the cage against you, like you're a small guy, but like I said this last week when I did a video on you, like you're really strong, like stronger than most people I think that you fight. Like your legs are like I don't know, like maybe two of mine put together. Like you're like you have like these like tree trunk kind of legs, and you like mess people up with them. And I think that like helps out a lot because you're probably able to like generate a lot of power from them and like use like your leg strength to keep people pinned up against the cage, which is really cool to see. And I like watching. I guess like being a smaller guy, you kind of have to be a bully because you don't have a reach advantage probably over most of the guys that you're fighting. So you kind of have to like be in their face and kind of have to like dictate where the fight's gonna go. Is that? Have you ever fought anyone who's shorter than you?
I have, I think.
like
It's
not in
been a
high
while.
school, like not in high school, but like in like your amateur career or in your pro career. Have you ever fought anyone who is shorter than you or like roughly the same size as you?
That's a good
Because I don't
question.
think you have, man. Like every single fight of yours I've seen, there's you, like a little pocket tank, and then there's some guy who's like probably my height, 5'9" or so. Um, so I don't know. It's just like it, but I think you kind of like make that work to your advantage. Like you're a really tough dude, you're really strong, and I like regardless of like the size difference, like you're stronger than pretty much everyone I've seen you fight against. Um,
Right.
One question I had for you is you're 29, so you're a young guy. Is making 135 difficult for you? Like, what are you normally at?
I walked at about 150, so 135 has not been too hard for me to cut to.
Yeah, that's super good because as we get like older and stuff, it gets a little bit more difficult to cut. But I mean, if your walk around weight is like you're 15 pounds from 35 anyway, so it's not a huge deal at all. And I think
Right.
that's like definitely advantageous. The reason why I asked that is because it seems like more and more often you see guys that are too big for their weight class. And when I think of somebody who should be fighting at 135 pounds, I think of somebody like you. But I think like what you see is like these huge guys that kill themselves trying to make the weight, and they think they have an advantage over people like you. But that weight cut has taken so much out of them that like people like you are gonna fuck people up if they do that, right? Because it's like it's stupid. It's like fight at 55 or fight at 45. Like you're not helping yourself by fighting by killing yourself to make the weight. Do you see that a lot? Like bigger guys that are trying to like cut down to get into your class that think they might have an advantage over you. Do you see that a lot?
I mean, my opponent, Baron Bowler, he naturally fights at 145, 155, and he met me at 140. So I figured that was a lot of weight. He probably gave up. Um, yeah, a lot of guys have been trying to cut down to weight classes they shouldn't be cutting down to, um, thinking they'll be stronger or because they're bigger, they'll
I
come
think it
on top.
backfires, man. I do. Like I can't imagine fighting it. I haven't been 135 pounds since like fuck me, man. I don't know, like 20. You know, I'm 36 now. Like there's no way. I don't know if I could even make that weight. Maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of fat, but I could like but 135 there's just no way. And I think that's cool, man. I'm glad that you fight at. I'm glad you fight at 35, and I just wish I'd see more guys fight in their natural weight class. You know, I had a very like thorough conversation with Anthony Smith about this, and he was just like, for 90% of everyone who fights, he's like, if you bumped 90% of everybody up a weight class, you'd get better fights because nobody's fighting. Like there are very few people like you that are fighting at their natural weight. Like most guys are, you know, trying to cut down and they're crushing themselves trying to do it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you turned pro in 2019, like we talked about, and you're kind of insane for turning pro when you did because you did it like right during the pandemic. Things are closed down. Gyms all across the country are shut down. I won't. I'm in Virginia, and I've talked to a couple pros out here. Like our state was like shut down, man. Like there was no going to the gym. Like people were like working out in their backyards in the middle of winter time. They were working out in their garage, and you know I'm not going to name names, but I'll just say that some of them got a little clever interpreting what the laws were to make sure that they could get their sparring in and stay ready for their fight. And but we're not talking about a fight. Like we're talking about a major leap, man. You're going from an amateur career where you've been in for a number of years to pro, all during a pandemic. Like how difficult was that?
I mean, it was hard. I Nebraska wasn't as bad, we went into quarantine. We kind of we didn't have our training. We didn't have the gym. So I was working out in my basement. Luckily, I had all the weights and everything I needed besides the heavy bag. I didn't have a heavy bag, which is fine. I mean, training, I think it helped being quarantined. It opened our minds up to go outside the box. I trained harder, I think, in my basement than I've trained anywhere.
Did you spar with anybody in your basement before your fights or no?
No. Um,
That's crazy.
I, when was my first fight back to when was my first fight back? I fought here in Nebraska. I can't remember who I fought.
Dylan?
Dylan was my pro debut.
And then it was Lloyd Chase.
Yeah, Lloyd Chase. I fought Lloyd Chase.
February of 20 now.
Yes, I think that was around when the pandemic started, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like we're like it's like just really picking up steam right around that fight. Yeah, do you typically spar, Ashton? Like typically?
Where I train, we spar. Yeah, we spar Monday through Thursday. It's light. We don't try and take each other's heads off, mainly for the technique. Have something in front of us, moving in front of us.
So no sparring and you're pro, like did you notice a difference? Like was there like a rust factor by not having any sort of like real contact? Like when you went ahead and like walked in there? Like did or were you not even thinking about it until like maybe afterward?
I really wasn't thinking about it, so you know, I got back to training. I mean, it really didn't bother me. I was getting my training in regardless. I
Yeah.
don't need sparring to be a great fighter. I just need me, myself, and I can got shadow boxing, which is a mainly best technique you can use to better yourself.
So take me through the Dylan fight. So here's the thing. When you were an Ammy, like you like have a few losses on here, but like generally speaking, like going through your record, like you pretty much tore through everyone that you fought. Pretty much. The last time you lost as an amateur was in 2017. So from 2019, like the rest, like that was the last time you lost in your amateur career. And then you had a few bout cancellations and stuff like that, but like you pretty much like chopped your way through like everyone that you fought. So it'd been a minute since you had lost, and then you make your debut against Dylan Cox, who you lost to a few years ago in 2017. Like, what was going through your mind? Like after, like, take me back in the locker room. Like, what was going through your mind? You make your pro debut. That probably sucked because you're like, man, I know I'm better than this guy. I lost to this guy again. Like, just like up here has got to you got to be wired differently because for me, like I'd like to think I'd be a badass if I were put in that position, and I'd like to think that in the locker room I would be like, man, fuck that guy. I'll be back. I'll be better. I'll be stronger. I'd like to think that, but there would probably be a part of me, I'm just being real with you, where I'd be like, man, like, what the fuck am I doing, man? Like, am I even any good? Like, can you talk me through, like, what was going through your mind after that first defeat off of a debut, nonetheless?
That fight, when I lost that fight, very, very disappointed. I I just didn't feel right in the beginning.
Was, like, training for that fight, like, did you, like, was it, like, a mental thing? Was it, like, in your head? Did you have, like, was it just up here?
Yeah, I was mentally beat before I went out there. I would say that.
Yeah. Was it just because of things that are going on in your personal life, or was it because of just like wow, here I am, I'm making like my like professional debut. Like, do I even really belong here? Like, or is it just kind of like a mixture of all that stuff?
It was a mixture of everything.
Well,
Uh,
well, let me tell you, man. Like, you definitely belong there, and I think it says something because you lost that fight, and a couple months later, you go back out there and you get a unanimous decision victory against Lloyd Chase. Like, you're an active dude. Like, it seems to me that, like, no matter what happens, like, you're just like, I gotta get back in there. Like, like, they can't keep you away. You're like a bug to that blue light, man. Like, you just keep, like, you're an active guy. Like, I mean, like, looking at Tapology and I see all the fights that you've done all just during the pandemic. Like, you're back out there every 4 or 5 months. Like, that's insane. I don't know how you do that.
I want to climb. I want to keep climbing the ladder. So I want to, keep fighting. I just want to fight. I want to prove I can beat beat the best. I want to rank up and out here in Nebraska and get just keep ranking up and ranking up.
Are you going to fight again this summer?
I am.
You are. Okay. I won't ask
I,
you who. I won't ask you who. But so you will fight again this summer. That'll be super dope. And as soon as you make the announcement, I'll go ahead. I'll put it on my page. There's one thing I wanted to say. I wanted to ask you a couple questions. The first is, we debut, we lose, we win, and then we lose again, and then we go on a tear. So tell me what you've learned from those two losses, and like how has that made you a better fighter today?
um. Well, I completely learned from those two losses. I learned for sure. One of those losses made me figure out I need to find where I belong at training. Like I need to find my home gym. I was at Monstar Kickboxing Fitness, which wasn't. That's my brother. Virgil Knight's my brother. But it's all business, and I had to move on to a bigger gym. I knew I needed to work on everything. My stand-up, uh, better jitsu game. So I went over there and worked on my Muay Thai. And as being a wrestler, Muay Thai is the best sport for a wrestler, I think, because the clinch game. And when I went over there, everything changed. It's like a family over there. They taught me a different world. Muay Thai is a different world than here. And to learn how to use your elbows, knees, clench, it's a different game.
Yeah,
And
you like to throw that a lot. Like your knees, your elbows. Like I think it's pretty cool, man. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the Baron fight. So I don't kiss and tell. Like we've talked for a few weeks now. Actually, more like a few months. And since the fight's over, I'll go ahead and say you told me before your last fight, and I have it on my DMs. I'm not gonna share that, but I'll tell just for everyone listening right here. You told me before that fight, you're like, this fight is not gonna last long. I'm gonna put this dude away early. Like you called that shot. I have it in here. Like you called that shot, and you were just like, I'm going to put this guy away early. And I should have been the main event, and I'm kind of pissed off. And I've been working on some things, and like people haven't seen anything yet. And then I saw the results, and like you did exactly what you said you were gonna do, and I thought that was pretty dope.
well, I'm not, too mad not being the main event. I mean, there's still those are my boys. Yeah, Baron. My opponent got mixed. I had to get a new opponent. Baron Muller stepped up. He's fought some tough guys. He's fought Dwight Joseph twice. So he put up a fight.
Was it an anaconda or a bulldog?
It was a bulldog.
You don't see that very often, man. Like that's pretty dope, man. We just don't really see that all that often, and that's pretty slick. So is that like in retrospect? Are those like the things that you were telling me about, like kind of hinting to me about? Like I've been working on some stuff that people don't know about, and was it like your submission game?
I've been working a lot on my submission game. Been going to a lot of rolling, practicing, and just working on everything. But I wanted to work more on my stand up in that fight, but Barrett Muller wasn't allowing that. He wanted to take me down.
Well, you keep talking about your stand up, and like I think your stand up's really good. Like I wouldn't know that, like, cause, and like I'm like a nerd. Like this is what I do, man. Like I probably know more about fighting than like most people because that's just what I like, man. Like I like watching shit, and there are certain people you could tell like they have a certain base, and like so for example they're a jiu-jitsu guy and like their striking is just kind of wild, it's kind of loopy, it's not really high level, it's just something they're kind of doing to just throw different things at people. But I don't notice that about you. Like your striking looks really tight. I like that, man. Like I so I'm just kind of surprised to hear that from you. I think your striking is a lot better than you give it credit for. But you know what? Like we're all our own worst critics, right? Like me telling you as a fan of yours, like watching you fight, like I think it's good. But you're like a typical fighter. It's like, nah, it's not that good. So like, I'll just say, be easy on yourself. I thought it was great. And one thing that I think is super interesting about you is one of the things that I think about, like when you fight in DCS, like I'm wondering, like, are there guys out there that can like hang with you? Like, are you starting to feel like you've made a name for yourself? People know who you are, but you're like a vet. Like you're a young dude, but you've been fighting for a long time, and I'm comfortable calling you a veteran. So because you're like this vet that's been around for a minute, there are a bunch of young kids that are coming out there. Your name in Omaha, people know who you are. Do you feel like you got these like young kids that are looking at you like, man, if I can get a dub off this guy, that's gonna like set me up pretty good. Like, do the younger guys like are they trying to call you out, or are they trying to fight you, or are people trying to avoid you?
Um, I got a couple guys that been trying to get at me. I've gotten messages from guys that want to fight me, which that's I'm fine with that. Cameron Jordan, he's a young guy, and he's about 21, I think.
And he wants the
And
biz.
he does. He wants the biz.
I don't know if he brave or crazy. Like I don't. I'm sure he's a young, talented kid. I mean, I'm sure he is, but I don't know. I like one of the things I see is like be careful what you ask for. You may just get it, and especially if you're a young guy. One thing I would tell a young fighter, just as somebody who's like a fight nerd and like this, like I love watching fights, is like take your time. Like trust me, like the worst thing you could do is like rush yourself. And I think a good example of that, and I'm not trying to shit all over this guy, but like he's just the first guy that comes to my head, is Chase Hooper. He's a phenomenally talented kid, a great ground fighter, a great grappler, but he bit off more than he can chew, and that guy should not. He should be in like maybe the LFA, but I'm pretty sure if he went to LFA, he'd get his ass whipped there too. Like he's such a young dude. Like I don't know how he got to where he did, but I think like he's a really good case study of like being not rushing things. Do you agree with that, or do you think I have a different opinion?
Chase Hooper is so scrawny. I mean, I don't know how he competes in being featherweight, 145.
Right. He's like 6'1" too. He's huge.
He needs to gain some muscle.
Yeah, I definitely think that, and he's a good example of like somebody whose striking needs work, and I'm not trying to shit all over the kid. I hope he does well. But I think he's a very good case study, and any young guy who's like super super ambitious, that's like, I'm 23 years old, I'm ready for the UFC. It's like, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, look at this kid. Like, that would be a dope fight. You should fight Chase Hooper.
That would be a dope fight.
You should fight him, Chase. Like, I'm gonna tag you in this video, Chase. You're gonna see this guy, and you should fight him. Make it happen. So,
he's getting booted from the UFC.
Well, he's in a must-win, I think. I don't know how many more fights are on his contract, but like, if he doesn't make this next one, I think he's gone. I think that's probably fair. And again, talented kid, but like, and not to be a homer, I think you'd fuck that kid up. I really do. Like, you're a lot stronger than him. Like, he's really strong on the ground. Like, he like, I don't know if I'd want to be on the ground against that kid. But I think like, if you fought him, it'd look really similar to a lot of the other fights I've seen you. Like, I think you'd put his gangly ass up on that cage, and like, you'd piece him up. I really believe that, and I don't think I think him being a long gangly guy would kind of like go to your advantage. And I know he's 45 and you're 35, but like, even if you put on 10, you could still do that. For sure, man. Like, let's make it happen. Like, I should work for the UFC. That should be my job. I should be a matchmaker. I should, man. People need me. They need me, dude. I could run that. I'd run a dope freaking operation, man. I'd be putting together some baller cards, and you'd definitely be on it. Before I let you go, I wanted to get to a few of the listener questions that people wanted to ask you. And one of them's from a professional, Dre Miley, who's a good friend of mine, and he fights out of Knoxville, Tennessee. I forget the name of his gym. I think it's like Knoxville Martial Arts Academy, and he trains with OSP. Really cool dude. And he had a question for you, and he wanted to know if you had the choice of going to like Bellator, PFL, or UFC, which one would you pick? And he's in your weight class too, by the way. But don't fight him. You guys aren't allowed to fight. Just saying.
If I had the choice, oh man, I definitely would pick Bellator over UFC.
Why is that?
They just pay better. They treat their fighters better. It's more clean. They don't do a lot of talk trash on social media. I mean, it's more professional, I think.
What about PFL? Like, PFL, I heard they pay really, really good. And because of it's like a point system, like, you almost don't even need to like hype up fights or talk shit. Not really. If everyone's seated, you know what I mean? It's kind of cool. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
I thought PFL. I would go to PFL if they opened up the bantamweight division. I don't think they have a bantamweight division yet.
Do they have a 45? I watch some PFL, but like, not a whole lot, to be honest.
I assume they have a 45. I do think they have a featherweight.
You should stay at 35 though. Like, if you fight Chase, yeah, go up to 45, but otherwise stay at 35. That's a natural weight class for you, and yeah, I think it would be dope. Yeah, I'm gonna keep bringing that up. I'm gonna start every single time I mention you. I'm gonna at Chase Hooper, and we're just gonna like spam his accounts until he starts noticing. What music do you listen to before you walk out? Like, do you listen to music at all? Because some guys are weird and they're like, I don't listen to shit.
I listen to music before I go out there, pretty much. So the whole time I'm in the back, I'm just chilling, listening to music. My main artist I listen to is King Isa, and strange music like Jelly Roll, and that's the kind of music I listen to before I go out.
I listen to metal. You see my guitar back there.
I do.
There needs to be more metal in MMA. I'm just saying. Everyone listens to rap and shit. It's kind of disappointing, as a metal guy. Of all the fights that you've done, whether it be AMI or pro, what's your favorite one?
Um, my favorite fight was probably against TJ Benson, uh, known as Kevin Benson. That's when I really got to trust in my stand up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he didn't try to take me down. Um, I got to really focus on my kicks and learn something new about myself.
Okay, this is a controversial one, so I don't mean to try to get you in trouble, but I got to ask because it's a good question. Let's pretend I'm a hater for a second. What would you say to somebody who's like, this guy fights in this little league in Nebraska, like he hasn't fought anybody, like yeah, like he's good there, but like what is it about you that's special? Like what is it about you that you want people to know? To the haters out there, like, no, like you will hear from me. Like I'm not just this regional guy. I'm not a king of Omaha. I'm gonna go out there and you're gonna see me in Bellator or PFL or wherever. Like, what is it about you? What would you say to a hater that's like, man, you haven't fought anybody. You're not that great.
Um,
You can't say fuck you. You have to say something.
I just let the haters just keep hating. I mean, I let it soak in. I mean, I just, I'm on a mission to be the best, and that's not letting them get it to me is not helping. I can't let them, bring me down. I gotta keep going forward.
I'm not surprised that you said that, and the reason why is because of what you said before. Like, I had a tough. I made my debut was tough. I lost. It kind of, I lost against a guy I've already fought before. You're fighting during the pandemic, and I mention all that again because, like, and I keep saying to people over and over and over again, just having had the privilege of speaking to fighters like you, is like the one common denominator I see about every one of you guys is like what you have up here is what sets you apart. Because with the right amount of like training, and it's not to say I could do what you do, but like anyone, like a lot of people can get in shape. Like you can learn Muay Thai, you can learn karate, you can learn jujitsu. It'll take you a lifetime, but you can do that. But like if you're getting ready to like fight, whether it be AMI or at a professional level, if you're fucked up here, you've already lost. Like your mind is what is going. Like you have to have this locked down. If you don't have this locked down, you are going to lose every single fight. So I'm not surprised that you said that. Like the one thing I see is like you just kind of have like this like tunnel vision. It's like if you're like not on like what I'm trying to work toward or directly in front of that, like you're just kind of white noise. You're there, like you're over here, but like that's really it. It doesn't really like get into me. Is that like more or less kind of how you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I can't wait to hear more about this fight. I really want to hear more about it, but I know like, they limit you on what you can say and like when you're allowed to go public with certain stuff. But can you say like will we be able to like buy the pay-per-view and will it be in Omaha?
There will be a pay-per-view.
Okay.
On location, date, I'm not sure of.
Okay. So the location is questionable. We don't know that right now, but we will be able to buy it if we want.
Yes.
Sweet. Well, Ashton, I want you to keep at it, man. Like you're just starting something special. I think you're strong. I think you're gifted, man. Like there's something about you and like your mentality that stands out. And like it for me, like it's not to say like it's not to say I'm a UFC scout or anything of the sort, but like you stand out to me. I've watched some of the DCS cards before, and I think you're probably the best fighter in the entire promotion. I really do. you're a special talent, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time before you get scooped up and you move on to a bigger pond. And when that happens, I'll be able to tell everybody, like, hey, man, no, I talked to that guy. And the Schmo and Rogan and all those other guys, man, they're behind me. Like, they can talk to him after I'm done. But thank you so much for your time, man. And I really want you to on the show again. I want to talk to you, hopefully, if we can, before you go back out there, or maybe soon after you get done beating this poor bastard up. But you know what? I don't feel that bad for him, man. He signed the contract, so fuck him. Right? I mean,
Right?
he signed the contract, so I don't feel too bad. Like, I wouldn't. It would take a lot of money for me to like fight you. Like, I'd have to get a lot of money, and then hopefully you would just like knock me out like right away. I think you could do that. I'm probably like 100 pounds heavier than you, but like I'm not gonna outrun you. I'm definitely not stronger than you, so I'm hoping that nothing that would like maim me too much. Just like maybe a black eye for a little bit. I think that would be good.
Right?
Yeah, like 30 seconds or something like that. Like a Mike Tyson job. Hey, brother, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, I want you guys to follow my guy, Ashton Caniglia. Ashton, is there anything that you wanted to say? Any shout out to sponsors, your Instagram page, anything like that before we sign off?
Yeah. You guys can follow my Instagram at nochance92. I want to give a big shout out to my team out in West Des Moines, Iowa at Muay Thai Nationals. They're out there kicking some ass. And I want to thank you for having me on the show. I mean, it was great. It was good to be on.
Yeah, well, hey, man, you can come on anytime you want. You got a bright future, and we can't wait to have you on the show again.